What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Satisfactory. This will be the last video in this series as the beta is about to end. This is the Satisfactory pre-early access launch beta, and it's about to end in just a few hours. So I wanted to get one last video in to play with a couple more things. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the series, I did want to take a chance to explore the map. I didn't get as much of the map explored as I would like, but I did find this. Now, after going through and researching that hard drive, I actually got to a point where I don't think I was supposed to be at the beta, as after I analyzed it, I came up with this. It gives me alternative blueprints for coal, reinforced iron plates, and then stitched iron plates, which I don't even know what stitched iron plates are yet. I'm assuming that will come on the next tier, or it's something altogether. I just don't know. However, I did try to select reinforced iron plates, as I noticed the production time was 7.5 parts per minute, versus right now I'm only putting out 5 parts per minute. So I wanted to research this, however it crashed the game. So I'm assuming that I'm not supposed to go to that point yet in the beta, so I am just going to leave the molecular analysis machine where it's at right now, and I'll get to play around with that a little bit more once it hits early access. Now, I did talk about wanting to make a main bus. Now, I did go ahead and expand out my little ramp platform just a little. Now, of course, I intended originally on completely paving the world with an elevated platform as far as the eye can see. However, I don't have enough time to farm up all of that concrete to make all these foundations up here, so that's just not going to happen. However, I did want to play around with the stacking of items. And here we see I've got plates, I've got the rods, and I've got reinforced plates all stacked up above each other here now. They're all being fed over to this one main area. And this is kind of what I had in mind. Now, I'm not really sure. To be honest with you, it seems like it would almost be better, instead of elevating it on top, to have them spread out, because when you think about it, adding in a splitter, it just takes a lot of room, and you would really have to have a ton of room up here to build one particular thing, just splitting off of a main bus type situation. However, this was my thoughts though. So say right here on the corner we had a power pole, and then we were going, pole to pole, and then of course, say we were going that way all the way to the end as far as the eye can see. However, say right here we wanted to branch off. Well, we would put another power pole right here, go ahead and branch off of it, and then of course the power pole continuing along would continue to go this way until it got to the next place where I would want to pull power off of my main setup. Now, with that in mind, we can go ahead and get all of our items that are on that main bus up the hill here. So let's go to those stackable conveyors. Let's go, let's see, I think I had 4 of them set up down there. I originally intended on bringing copper wire over, yet I never got it done. There's just not enough time left in the beta for me to get all of the things done that I wanted to do. But let's say we wanted plates here on this first tier. We'll take the rods on the next one right there. Then we got reinforced. And then the copper wire would have been on that top plate, and we would bring it up. So now we've got regular plates, rods, reinforced plates, and copper wire in main bus form up here. Now, say once again, this is the place I was getting to before I would make the split there. Then I would come over here, and I would do another stack of these stackable conveyor poles. Then, of course, I could just extend my bus right on over so that it is all attached up nicely. Now, let's see. What is something we would want to maybe automate up here? I'm thinking maybe rotors. It seems like we have been starting to need a lot of rotors, and maybe rotors would be something that we would start off wanting to automate up on that main platform. Now let's take a look real quick and see what it takes to make rotors. It takes the iron rods and screws, and then screws, of course, can be made from the iron rods. Now, so all we need to do is we would need to branch one thing off of our main bus, and that's the iron rods. So let's go ahead and pretend like this is the rest of the world over here where the rest of the bus is going to. And we'll go ahead and get our stack of conveyor poles over here. And then start looking at what we got. Now we don't need any plates, so we can go ahead and run the plates through. We don't need any of our reinforced, so we can go ahead and let it run through. And we're not going to need any copper wire, so we would let it run through. Now at this point we would want to branch off and snag some of these rods here. So we have to take a look and see how far... Let's see, how far away from the bus do we need to be? Actually, not that terrible. I need to come down to about here. So right about at that point, we would want to put a splitter in. So let's go with a conveyor splitter. Yeah, let's just put it right there. And then now, of course, the conveyor would split. We would come down here, and then we would take this other one, and it's going to continue on in the main bus. Now, like I said, it seems like this would just take a ton of room. So this is more just me playing around and having fun than something that will realistically work. And actually, I think stacking up on a production line may end up being an overall better route, but I did want to just play around with this and check it out. So alright, now we do have a source of our iron rods, and everything else is continuing along the bus quite nicely. Now to create those rotors, of course, we're going to need screws, and screws are going to require a constructor. So let's put a constructor, say, just right here. We'll go ahead and run some screws over to it. Maybe? I turned them around the wrong way, didn't I? I think I did. Let's go ahead and try this again. Let's see, a constructor. It needs to go this way. Yeah, okay, so it would be that way. So then we want to grab and come into here. This would be making screws. And then we could always use, we could either split this one again, which probably wouldn't necessarily be a terrible idea, or we could have our assembler, which is going to be actually assembling the rotors. Can't afford. Okay, so I need to grab myself some cable real quick. And we've got our cable, so let's throw that assembler down. And how would we want it facing? We could do something like that, maybe? And then that would allow us to take the screws and have the screws coming over and around. And then the rods coming over and directly in. And then we would have this set for rotors, and we can automate our rotor production. So a couple of main problems here. First off, using a splitter in this form just takes such an enormous amount of room. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure there is a better way. However, this is just kind of the initial thought process of what a main bus could look like. Now remember, for it to be properly a main bus, this little line here wouldn't be 4 high. It would be more like 10 high or 12 high or 15 high, something along those lines. So there'd be lots of things on it. However, you're always going to have to take up this splitting space. So even though you could optimize how all of this was running better over this way, the splitter would still be required, and it would actually be really awesome. And maybe it's a thing, but down the line, if there was doubles of this pole where you could split it off of that pole directly, that would make for a really nice clean main bus that you wouldn't need this whole area being used. The other bad part about this is what I originally pictured was a place, you know, kind of a roadway going down where a truck can come up. Now, obviously here, a truck is not going to make it through this without doing some heavy-duty bobbing and weaving, and that just wouldn't work. Now, of course, we're still missing our power, so we'd want a power pole over here to power both of these machines. We'd want these machines powered off of a separate pole, and then we would want our splitter power pole going over to this pole, and then that would completely turn these machines on. Should only be a second or two, and we'll have screws popping out. Here we go. So the screws are starting to flow, and then eventually we will have some automated rotors at 6 per minute. So definitely not breaking any records about how fast it puts these things out. That is for certain, but it's automated off of a very sloppy, but could possibly be a decent main bus. Now, I'm guessing what I would want to do is actually put the roadway over on this side somewhere where you could drive down. I'm not really sure. Just my initial thoughts. Obviously, our timing is not necessarily being cut short. They gave us a nice little beta access weekend. However, unfortunately, that beta weekend is coming to a close. So that is going to do it for now. That is it for this series. I will be back on the 19th when this hits early access. Super stoked about Satisfactory, and I can't wait to discover more things and find better ways to optimize what I do have going here. So thank you once again, and I will see you soon. Take it easy.